Hello students, welcome to this video tutorial called Finding Factors Review. It's really important that you have a calculator handy, either on an app on your device or on the computer or your calculator. Also, when we talk about factors, we really get to use those divisibility rules, and we see why it's helpful that we memorize those divisibility rules. Okay, so we've got three examples to work through in our note. So let's get this ready. All right, so find the factors of these numbers. So the first example is we're going to find all the factors for the number 10, and then we're going to create what's called a factors list. All right, so remember, every single number is divisible by 1 and itself. So that should be the first pair that you're writing. So 10 has factors of 1 times 10. Now it's really helpful if you list out all of the multiplication kind of statements that make up the number that you're looking for. Okay, so 10 has factors 1 and 10 because 1 times 10 is 10. So as soon as you write one pair down, I want you to put it in the factors list. Now 1 is going to be the smallest factor in our list, and 10 is going to be our greatest because we can't have a number greater than 10 dividing into 10. So I put 1 at the left-hand side of the bracket and 10 at the right-hand side of the bracket. All right, so what other numbers divide into 10? Well, the next number after 1 is 2. So if we use our divisibility rules, we know that 10 is an even number, so we know that 2 has to divide into 10. So we have 2 times, and then what is 2 times what equals 10? 2 times 5. Okay, so now we've got our next set of factors. So let's add that to our factors list. So 2 comes next in ascending order, and then 5 is way over here. Okay, it's before 10 in ascending order. Okay, now does 3 go into 10? No, because remember the divisibility rule for 3 is if we add up all the numbers, 1 plus 0 is 1, is that sum divisible by 3? And 1 is not divisible by 3. Does 4 go into 10? No. Does 5 go into 10? Yes, but we've already taken care of 5 over here. Okay, so we don't need to write the reverse 5 times 2. So let me just write this here to show you that we do not need to write this twice because we've already got the factor of 2 here and we've already got the factor of 5 here. Okay, so we're finished. There are no other factors for 10. So we see this list here, this factors list. It doesn't look very neat. So what I want you to do is I want you to rewrite it. Because when we first start a question, it's really hard to predict the number of factors a number has. It can have very few factors, like this number, or it can have a great number of factors. So we're going to rewrite this factors list, and we're just going to make it a little bit more compact, a little bit neater. So we write down all of our factors. And there we go. Now we have a nice, neat factor list here. Okay, let's go on to another number that probably has more factors. So we're looking at the number 80. So remember, before you think of anything, before you take out your calculator, the first one you always have to write down is 1 and the number. Okay, so those are the first two factors. Because even a prime number has the factors 1 and itself. So we have 1 times 80. So let's go over to our factors list, put 1 on the left-hand side, and let's put 80 on the right-hand side. Okay, now again, I have no idea how many factors will come between these two numbers. All right, so this is an even number. So if it's an even number, we automatically know that 2 will divide into it. Now here's where you can use your calculator. 80 divided by 2, you could come over here to your calculator. 80 divided by 2, and if you can do that mental math, that's even better. Okay, so 80 divided by 2 is 40. So our next pair, our next factor pair is 2 and 40. There will be no factors between 40 and 80. Okay? All right. Let's look at 3. Okay, so if we add the numbers together, 8 plus 0 is 8. Is that sum 8 divisible by 3? No, it is not. So 3 is not a factor. How about 4? Okay, well, remember the divisibility rule for 4? The last two digits, 80. Is 80 divisible by 4? Well, it doesn't really answer our question. So what we can do is we could come over here and we can just try our calculator. It wouldn't take more than 5 seconds to do. And we get a whole number. So we know that 4 divides into 80. So that will be 4 times 20, okay? Because this answer here was 20. All right, so our next pair to add to our brackets are 4 and 20. Okay, well, this number ends in 0, so we know that one of the factors is 5, using our divisibility rule of 5. So what is 80 divided by 5? Again, if you can do it mental math, that would be great. Or you could come over here to the calculator, use your calculator. Don't just copy my answer, use your calculator, please. And then we get 16. 5 times 16. So that's our next pair that we're going to add to our brackets, to our factor list. Okay. Now, does 6 go into 80? The divisibility rule for 6 means that it must be divisible by 2 and 3. Well, it's not divisible by 3, so it's not divisible by 6. How about 9? Does 9 go into 80? No, it does not. But does 8 go into 80? Yes, it does. 8 times 10 is 80. Okay? All right. So let's add these. Now, how do you know when to stop trying examples? Well, usually the clue is, as you're creating this factors list, as these numbers get closer and closer together, your list is almost finished. Okay? So 8 and 10 are numbers that are very close together. In fact, there's only one number in between them, 9. So you can check that number. Is 80 divisible by 9? We already said no. So when these two numbers get pretty close, then you know that your factor list is complete. All right, so this actually turned out pretty neat, but because we did it in the first example, I'm going to rewrite my factor list so it'll be very neat. So 1, 2, 4, 5, 8, 10, 16, 20, 40, and 80. And then don't forget to close your bracket. Okay, nice and neat. So you see that this factors list is much longer than the factors list for the number 10. And that's simply because 80 has a lot more factors than the number 10. Okay, so let's go on to the last one, 120. So I've left the most amount of room here, so that should give you a hint that we're probably looking at a lot of factors. All right, so what's the first one that you're going to start with? So I don't just want you to copy everything. I want you to use what we've learned in the first two examples. So write the first pair and then add it to your factors list, please. So the first pair is easy. We know that 1 times 120 is 120. So hopefully you've added that to your factors list. 1, 120. Okay, write neat, write small. Okay. How about 2? Well, it's an even number. So we know that 2 goes into 120. If you have to use your calculator, please use your calculator. So what's the other factor if one of them is 2? Well, it should be 60. Okay. All right, so we've got our next pair, 2 and 60. Now again, I'm going a little bit slower on this example because I'm hoping that you'll stay ahead of me. So the next factor we should try is 3. So I'm going to pause for a bit and I want you to see if 3 divides equally into 120. You can use your divisibility rule, or you can simply use your calculator. So if you answer that 3 does go into 120, well, what's the other number that you have to multiply 3 by to get 120? All right, I got 40. So let's add that to our factors list. I want you to keep going. So far, I've determined that the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 all divide evenly into 120. So when I determine if 6 is a factor of 120, I just look at my list. Now remember, the divisibility rule for 6 is a number is divisible by 6 if it is divisible by 2 and 3. Well, 120 is divisible by both 2 and 3. So that I know that 6 is one of the factors. So then I can just use my calculator and divide 120 by 6. You can see my factors list is getting very crowded here. All right, so what's the next factor after 6? Does 7 divide evenly into 120? We never really had a divisibility rule for 7, so that's something that you can just check on your calculator. 120 divided by 7, and if you get a decimal answer, you know that it is not a factor. So how about 8? We never really had a divisibility rule for the number 8. So let's just use our calculator. 120 divided by 8 equals 15. We get a whole number. So we know that 8 is definitely a factor. 8 times 15. Okay, so let's add that to the list. 8, 15, getting really crowded here. Now, are we done? Well, this number ends in 0. So if a number ends in 0, it is not only divisible by 5, but it is also divisible by 10. Now let's check 9 first. Is it divisible by 9? So the rule is if we add up all the numbers, 1 plus 2 plus 0 is 3. Is 3 divisible by 9? No. So we know that 9 is not a factor. So let's check 10. Well, 120 divided by 10 is 12. So we have 2 more factors that I actually could not fit into my factors list. Now, remember how I said in example 2? How do you know when you're done? Well, when these two numbers get close together. So 10 and 12. There's only one number in between 10 and 12, and that's 11. So let's check, is 120 divisible by 11? Do we get an even, a whole number, I mean? Oops. No, so 11 does not work. So that's how we know we're done. When these two numbers, the last pair, are fairly close to each other. Okay, so on my last step, I'm going to give myself a little bit of room here because the factors list is so long. All right, got to be really neat here. So I just want you to write out in ascending order, numerical order, all of your factors. Don't forget any. It's quite an extensive list. I picked a good number for in terms of getting a lot of factors. All right, so for this number, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 factors. Wow. Okay, so hopefully this made some sense. Please refer back to this note, back to this video if you get stuck. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.